recorded. Burnett, Nicholson, Worry, Johnson are present. Approval of the agenda.
Second.
By Burnett, second by Johnson. Under discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Approval of the minutes. Moved by Burnett.
Second.
By Worry. Under discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. Regular business. Consideration of possible action on request by Alderman Dorf on behalf of Gerald Schaefer at 1608 Sonata Drive, for being dissatisfied with repairs done to an area on or near his property that resulted in the sprinkler head being removed. Grenier?
Jim received a phone call from Mr. Schaefer yesterday asking for this to be delayed to the end of the agenda. He has a medical appointment tonight, and he's trying to get here.
All right. Motion to hold for end of meeting.
So moved.
Second by Worry, second by Burnett. Under discussion, here none.
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. Okay, 2, consideration of possible action on request by Alderman Galvin for DPW to develop and implement a 5-year plan to inspect sidewalks and repair or replace them to code. Director Grenier.
Okay, at the last meeting, we provided you with a memo regarding a proposed sidewalk replacement program, and I handed out a copy of that again tonight. That in essence provides the framework for a possible forward-looking proactive sidewalk inspection program. Again, going to the proposed program itself, what we've looked at is a proposed program that would target a 15-year cycle for routine inspection, repair, replacement of city sidewalks. The program would be capped financially with an initial program value of $300,000. That's just for the routine. We're also expecting an additional $120,000 for the complaint-based existing sidewalk program. The city would then be partitioned off into similarly sized areas based on sidewalk coverage from the database. Seasonal engineering interns would be responsible to complete the inspections for the area targeted in the coming year, and this would start in 2020. So we would inspect in 2020 for a 2021 repair replacement program. The cost for the engineering interns would be covered as part of the program cost, so using the previous year's construction cost. Sidewalk inspections would continue until the financial cap is reached, at which time we would shut the program down for the year. Any areas cut off within that geographically targeted area for the year would then become top of the list for the following year. And the existing complaint-driven program would continue largely unchanged from existing, but likely would somewhat decrease in size over time because we would be going to a more routine inspection-based program. So again, we provided this to everybody as part of the council packet a couple of weeks ago, and it's for your consideration tonight.
Questions? Matt?
Director Grenier, I mean, if I look at this correctly, the amount of time that would take man hours to actually observe the sidewalks would be a rather large undertaking, at 200 feet per hour.
That's correct.
So I mean, just to even get the data, we would need to administer a program to replace the complaint-based system.
No, this would be in supplement to it.
Oh, okay. Right, supplement to.
Yes.
Exactly. So based on that alone, unless we're willing to hire more staff, I mean, I think that would be pretty exhausting.
Well, what we're anticipating doing is utilizing summer students, which are going to be obviously at a much lesser rate.
There's no way to view this from above, like silly question, like a satellite or some other.
No, with the criteria for a pavement defect, we actually have to be able to get out there and measure to within 3/4 of an inch in vertical.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Thanks, Chairman. I like it. Motion to approve.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to approve by Alderman Worry. Is there a second?
What are we approving?
I'm not sure yet. The 5-year plan to inspect sidewalks and repair and replace them, but too cold.
I think we've all had so many
Hang on,
complaints
hang on,
about
hang on.
sidewalks.
Do we have a second? I'll second it. Under discussion, Alderman Wery?
No, I think it's well put together, and I know for a long time I've been hoping we'd have a program like this to get through the city and not just do it at complaint driven, so thanks, Steve, for putting it together, I like it.
Any other questions? Johnson?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I'm just trying to
Burnett.
review this here real quickly. So, okay, sorry, now that I'm getting to the last page of this report here, I see it's a 15-year cycle. I didn't know if this was, what the timing on this was. So is the intent, Steve, then that, I mean, once you kind of, I mean, if you were to hypothetically split the city up into 15 divisions or sections, that you kind of go through one section every year, and then at the end of 15 years, you start over again?
Yes, that's the case, and having a brief conversation with Alderman Galvin today, one of the things that I think we would be sensitive to is somebody's gonna be first and somebody's gonna be 15th. And obviously, with 15 versus 12, it's not gonna follow exactly the aldermanic districts. So what Galvin has asked is that we try to put together something that has some east and some west for each year. And then what if this were to go through, what we would do is we would, and again, the intent would be if a program were to be adopted, we would start the program in 20 for replacement in 21. So the 20 program would remain much like it has in the past, and in the forward-looking, we'd actually start replacing sidewalks in 2021 under it. So that gives us a couple of months here to try to come up with a plan to break, what we would anticipate each year over the course of 15 years. And then get some feedback from the council to make sure that you guys agree that it's a equitable distribution around the city. We're not just gonna pick it and say this is the way it's gonna be, and then, somebody's agreed because they're last on the list. We wanna get at least some buy-in from the council, saying that it's a good way to go about it, or get your suggestions to modify it.
Okay, and so, Steve, in the future too, is there a possibility to have this kind of stuff in the packet? I mean, just so it'd be useful to be able to
No,
review it ahead of time.
you're 100% correct. I think what we got caught with was coming back out of the Thanksgiving holiday, and some stuff got missed. So all the stuff I handed out tonight should have been a part of the package.
Okay, and so when I'm, one of the things that comes to mind, and I apologize if it's in here, I'm trying to get through a lot of data, but when we inspect these, we're likely going to uncover more sidewalks that are damaged by trees, I would imagine, than what we're doing right now.
Correct.
So there'd be an added cost to repair those. Is that accounted for in here?
That is the $300,000 limit. If it's a sidewalk defect that's other than by tree or something city caused, that's the property owner's responsibility, and that wouldn't be part of this program cost.
Don't we already budget for that? Right now?
No,
Or what
it's-
amount do we budget now?
Right now, just the tree damage or city responsibility is about 120 based on complaint.
Okay, so we're looking to increase 120 to 300, we cap it at 300?
Nope, increase from 120 to about 420. The 120 program, the
additional three,
complaint
got it.
program stays exactly the way that it is right
Because
now.
that could be in anywhere. Got
Yep.
it. Okay. What is your take or feel in terms of local contractors' ability to respond to that additional repair?
It is a concern. Right now, we are having trouble getting contractors to respond to our existing complaint-based program. We get one, maybe two a year responding to it. Now, obviously, making a larger program, you could have some issues. What our hope is because we're developing the program for the following year, we're gonna have those locations pretty well nailed down, whereas the existing program is a needs-based, so you're kind of jumping all over the city. Here, you're gonna be more in a geographic area, if you will, more of a condensed area. And the contractor will have the ability to go out and take a look at those sidewalks before bidding. Whereas on the existing sidewalk contract, we simply send a work order and say it's in front of this address, go over there and fix it. So we're hoping that because of that, we're gonna generate more interest and more ability. But you're right, there is a concern.
And do we have any type of financial programming or resources in place that if a homeowner doesn't have the ability to pay for the repairs, is there like a revolving loan or loan fund or anything that they can tap into to assist?
There has never been anything like that with the city, no.
Okay. What is the average cost per cake?
Right now, I think a replacement sidewalk is running
Ballpark.
about $185, $190
That's per cake?
per square.
Per square? Yeah.
Yep.
Anything else, Brian?
Yeah, I think I'd probably support this to move forward to council, but I'm probably gonna have a few questions that I'm gonna maybe look to engage in before then, so. that's
Absolutely.
fine.
Feel free to call.
Yeah.
Burnett?
I like the idea, I do. There's some bad sidewalks in our city. What I'm afraid of doing is endorsing the plan is we don't have the financial resources to fund it. So that's a whole other consideration. And if we don't have contractors within the city that are ramped up to do the work, it's almost as if we're getting ahead of ourselves a bit. So I like the idea. I kind of agree with Alder Johnson that I myself am not ready to support it at the moment, so my vote will be no, but with more information, and I'm gonna look at this a little bit more, I might turn it to a yes. But the financial resources to administer such a plan, I mean, that's no small thing. That's it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion
No.
carried. 1 no, Burnett. Okay, moving forward, where are we, 3? Consideration of possible action by Alderman Nicholson for review of Department of Public Works completion date expectations with possible action. And 2, notification of Brown County Home Builders Association and open meeting. Piece of, what do you call it? What is that sheet called? I thought I wrote it down.
The
Steve.
certificate of occupancy?
I
Or are you looking at the inspection memo?
believe the inspection memo. Yes, that.
Okay.
Okay, when did that come out, Steve?
Oh, that's been placed for August.
August? And home builders were notified and everything? Matt?
We've been doing, where this has come about is, we've been having issues getting final compliance regarding DPW responsible activities, especially lawn restoration.
Right, but was the Home Builders Association notified?
We notified them a couple months ago. Was it August? No, but it was a couple months ago.
Couple, oh, so they're aware?
They're aware of it.
Yep.
I had
Okay.
discussions with them.
Okay.
And then Steve is going to actually have additional follow-up conversations.
Oh, okay.
Because right now, the way the ordinance reads, if something is non-compliant during the winter months, they have to put up a cash bond to get their certificate of occupancy. They are looking to see if there are other avenues that are available, such as escrows. We've always been told that lending institutions would not accept a conditional certificate of occupancy. It sounds like that has changed and thereby opens up other avenues of allowing I'll call it a dirty certificate of occupancy with conditions. So if they have an escrow, it can be approved. That basically showing us that there's money available to finish up sidewalks, driveways, to put in a lawn, because there's, in some cases, properties on a spec home that have been not seeded for 2-3 years after the house has been built. And so we get complaints regarding, well, why doesn't this property have to be seeded or restored? So this is just an avenue that we are following what has been established in code decades ago.
And I had a conversation, because the request was to notify Home Builders Association. As luck would have it, they reached out to me by letter a week ago requesting a meeting about this very topic, so I reached out to schedule the meeting. They were not aware that this communication was coming forward to the committee, and I did receive an email from Mary McAllister Charles, who's the executive officer for Brown County Home Builders Association, requesting that this item be held because we're going to be meeting on it on Thursday, December 12th.
Okay, I was gonna ask you, Steve or Matt, if there was any feedback from Brown County Home Builders Association.
Originally, they didn't like it, but there was communication saying we would discuss it further. And
Okay.
Yeah,
further
and right now,
discussion.
the feedback we're receiving from the Home
12th.
Builders Association is let's have a meeting on December 12th.
2 days.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else, Steve?
Nope.
Okay. There's someone from the audience that
Motion to open the
wants
floor,
to
second.
speak. There's a motion by Johnson to open up the floor for interested parties, second by Worry, under discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. Okay, the floor is now open. Just raise your hand, I'll recognize you, state your name and address for the record, please.
Tina Bunker, 825 South Huron Road, Green Bay, 54311. I sit on the Government Affairs Committee for the Brown County Home Builders, and there was no notification to us that I am aware of until this kind of came down the road. I can tell you at Johnny B. Home Construction, which is my dad's company, we're extremely concerned about the costs associated with this. The surprise of it, given we have contracts under construction that don't have funds in the contract. Certain, when you're building a house, a homeowner can take on certain things, like landscaping is not part of our contracts. Lawns are not part of our construction contracts. And it's not possible to put them in construction contracts because this year we would have never closed on any properties because it rained so much, hardly anyone got any lawns in whatsoever. No one's gonna pay to put a temporary lawn in just to get something down when you need an actual lawn done. So I think I know you wanna have the construction company do it, but yet the homeowner, the owner of the property, really is just as responsible for these items. Probably more so than the builder if it's not described in their construction contract. As far as specs go, those end up being ultimately sold, but at Johnny B. Home Construction, we are extremely concerned about the cost that this adds, both in the 20% administration fee that's noted on the form, the cost to actually obtain the bond, and then where does this money come from when, in this particular instance, when there was no notification that this was going to be happening, because the temporary certificate of occupancy we've used for many years, precedent is that, homeowner can do it in the spring, it really has taken us by surprise.
So when I guess you're on the government affairs of Brown County Housing Authority or
No, the Brown County Home
Association?
Builders.
Home
Brown
Builders?
County Home Builders, were, the letter came from Mary Charles.
Okay,
I sit on the Government Affairs Committee, and our committee was not made aware of it. I think the board was made aware of it like within the last 30 days,
okay.
would be my guess. But our committee, which meets monthly, was not made aware of it recently,
All right, Steve?
We have a meeting coming up. I know you have the task force meeting on the 12th, and then as a Government Affairs Committee, we have a meeting on the 18th.
On this subject?
It's on the agenda.
Okay. Steve, who's going to be at the meeting for Brown County Home Builders?
They have not told me who,
Oh, they
who's
didn't tell you?
coming.
Oh, okay.
It's with that
on their
task
side.
force.
No.
It's a task force?
Mhm.
Okay, all right. Anybody else, anything else? Anybody else from the audience? Okay, I'll
Close
close
the
the floor. By Johnson, second by Wardy, under discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. The floor is now closed. Regular order of business. Johnson, Alderman Johnson.
Yeah, how do we, Steve, how do we determine what the amount of the cash bond is?
Based on our experience with recent construction contracts, we estimate the cost to complete the work that's necessary yet to be done, and that's the value of the cash bond.
So if there's $10,000 worth of work to be done, it's a $10,000 cash bond,
Correct.
and we just sit on that, we hold it?
We hold it until the date, we give them a completion date as well.
So we're basically asking contractors to tie up double the amount that's required to get the job done, the amount that they're gonna have to pay to do the work, and the amount of the cash bond?
I guess I'm not following.
So if hypothetically, right, they need to put in a lawn, and it's gonna cost them
And-
$10,000 to
And
do the lawn?
that's one of the things I want to clarify right now. We're
Yeah.
not talking about lawns.
What are we talking about then?
We're talking about site stabilization. So that could be accomplished with an annual rye, an annual winter weed, something just to turn the area green and stabilize for erosion control purposes, not the full lawn.
Okay, so when that's not done, and we use the cash bond to go and perform this work, who's actually performing that work?
We would probably hire a contractor to come in and do that.
Provided that they have not already done so.
Right.
The builder, contractor, homeowner has till X date in spring to complete the work. If they do not complete that work by said time, we will give them notice saying, your deadline is up. Do you have any plans? Yeah, we're looking at next week. Great. If there is no plan of action, we will then move forward and do the work and utilize that cash bond to complete that work come spring.
How many times a year would you say that this is presented as a problem?
Since construction is booming the past 2 years, we could be looking at 30 occasions.
It's basically, it's a time of the year thing. So if we get to October 1st, the ability to, we think, to get out there and get some annual temporary cover crop on that is still there. But for whatever reason, there are several contractors who are not doing it. Likewise, if sidewalk is required, and that's kind of where this started, was we had an issue a couple of years ago where there were some subdivisions. Sidewalk was required as a condition of occupancy as part of the plat, and the sidewalks were never installed. DPW and inspection found that. We wound up doing a research backwards over 6 or 7 years worth of plats, identified a number of subdivisions where that was the case, and then we had the sidewalks ordered in. And the residents were then upset with DPW for ordering sidewalk. Why didn't you catch that as part of getting the house approved for occupancy? So we went back, took a look at the ordinance, and tried to figure out what options were available, and this cash bond was an option that was available to us under ordinance, so that's why we started there. Now, is that the be-all, end-all? Absolutely not, which is why we're having a meeting. We're willing to look at things. It can be done with, possibly done by escrowing funds, which are part, and the escrow could be something from the buyer, not necessarily from the seller. But at least that stuff is being discussed and disclosed with the buyer and the seller up front at the point of sale. What we were finding was this was not being done by a developer or builder, and it wasn't necessarily being disclosed to the buyer, and then they were getting caught with this. So all we're trying to do is to ensure that the work that's necessary to be done is being done and that nobody's being caught unawares by it. So again, we're open to some suggestions on getting to that goal.
Yeah, and it sounds like we're probably gonna hold this anyway, but it's just, I'm just trying to get a little more information so I better understand the issue too.
Yep.
So, and then maybe one last question I have, when and if there's a disagreement between the builder, developer, and city staff, is there an arbitration process to help resolve that difference, or is it exclusively at the decision of the staff?
At this point, it's exclusively at the decision of the staff.
Okay. I just noticed that that was something that was not in here, and so I just kind
Yep.
of wanted to know how that worked. All right. Thank you.
Okay, motion, any other questions, or you want to hold next meeting until they have the meeting?
I would move the whole.
Okay, motion by Johnson to hold until our next meeting. Second by Burnett under discussion, here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. Moving forward, we are at consideration of possible action by Alderman Nicholson to install streetlight between 2058 Jamesford Avenue. Director Grenier.
That's the large handout that I gave to you, the color aerial photo. As luck would have it, there's a lot of these out there. This one was actually approved back in 2002 to install that very light. When we tried to acquire the easement necessary, because in this area, on that even side of Jamesford Avenue, I guess that would be west of Bader Street, the power is in the backyards, so it goes down the back lot line. So on that corner between 2050 and 2058, if you look, you can see the shadow of the utility pole down there. What we have to do is come between the houses down the lot line, install a pole in the public right-of-way up on Jamesford Avenue, and in order to do that, we have to acquire an easement from both property owners. We were unsuccessful in acquiring the easement back in 2002, so the light was never installed. So with this one, I think because that approval never was rescinded, I think the appropriate action would be to direct staff to attempt to acquire the easement from the current owners, and we can report it back under an item, or report it back under a director's report, or however you guys want to address it. But I don't think you need to act to approve it, because the approval never got rescinded.
So what do we need, just a motion to?
I think a motion to direct staff to attempt to get the easement from the current property owners at 2050 and 2058 would be appropriate.
Okay.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Worry, second by Johnson, under discussion. Here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. 5, consideration of possible action by Alderman Nicholson for the status update on plans to address chronic flooding in the vicinity of Main and East Mason Streets. Director Grenier.
Actually, I'm going to turn this over to Matt Heckenlabel, the utility manager. He's the one
Matt,
who's been working.
got the floor.
We have an engineered solution. It's not without some challenges, and it's not without a small price tag. Ultimately, what it is between East Mason and Limekiln, there are 2 6-foot by 12-foot box culverts that would be installed underground. Going diagonally from Cliff Wall over to the intersection of East Mason and Main Street would be about a 60-inch diameter pipe there. And then from Limekiln all the way down to Baird Creek, so Elizabeth Street by the McDonald's there would be a 6 by 12 box culvert down the middle of Main Street. There are a few sanitary sewer conflicts. There is approximately, one of the other engineering concerns is by pushing all this water down that new conduit, we would potentially wipe out the shoreline of Baird's Creek by Riverside Ballroom, because there would potentially be that much volume of water. The good news is that solution does take care of all the drainage issues under a design storm for both the Main Street corridor up by Family Dollar, Arby's, Familia Dental, North Shore Bank, and then the flooding up by Cliff Wall Auto. So there would be 0 ponding for our design storm. Bad news, you're looking at $28 to $30 million. That on top of flooding concerns elsewhere and projects elsewhere. Preliminary borrowing that we're looking at for 2020 construction is upwards to $36 million. Taking those numbers onto this year's budget alone, if we would just look at the debt service, we'd be adding on an additional $35 per ERU on top of the 118 that
Why
we're
so
at.
much, Matt?
Because we'd be borrowing $36 million. The debt cost is, I believe, somewhere around $8 million.
No, why would it be so much for the project?
It's,
That's
that's,
big.
you're
Pipe,
looking
and it's
at
over a mile
almost
Okay.
6,500
So it's
linear
material,
feet.
a lot of it would be material?
Well, part of it's material, part of it's the depth, and we're gonna have to go right down the center of Main Street, so we're gonna have to
Replace the
do
concrete.
a lot of concrete repair on Main Street.
Okay, well, that was one of my, that's my question.
Yep.
Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So, I mean, so we have that, I mean, we had flooding last weekend, up off of East Shore Circle. So not only do we could do a dike repair, or there was discussion about possibly raising the dike to help try and eliminate or alleviate some of the flooding that has occurred there. If we looked at raising the dike, we're looking at another $8 to $12 million.
That would help Main and Mason Street?
No,
No.
I'm
Matt's just giving you
I'm
some
just-
other projects that,
right
Oh,
now,
I don't see other projects on the
there isn't.
agenda.
But what I'm getting at is this $28 to $30 million project would chew up pretty much all of our capital for 2020. There'd be no other projects.
Can they do half or a quarter?
We have a communication into the consultant. We might be able to break it out into
Segments?
segments.
Okay.
Obviously, that won't alleviate the flooding then in year 1, year 2, year 3, possibly then in year 4, assuming that we do it in a 4-year process.
Right.
But you then have pipe that is in the ground that is doing nothing but being in the ground.
Right.
So ultimately, we would need a commitment saying, yep, we will fund that project in its entirety to make that go away. I ran the numbers on breaking it out into 4. It's, instead of 36 or $30 million, it'd be $7.5 million per year. That cuts the rates, obviously. I think it was $15 instead of the $35.
Can you contact the consultant then? See what feedback he would have on that question?
I've been in communication. We're just, I mean, the question, I guess, to council or to the committee tonight is, do we want to expend, for round numbers, $30 million to resolve a flooding issue that goes away in a couple hours? Now, yes, it impacts properties, but Antoinette is impacted for different projects. Shawano Avenue is impacted, different projects. East Shore Circle is impacted, Broadway. I mean, we have other projects, other problems. Do we
Right.
tie up that amount of capital?
Well, first of all, it's not a couple hours. I can guarantee you that, Matt, so that's not true. I know it would affect other projects, but other projects affect that. So,
Well-
I mean, that's the argument. What I would like to see is just to hold this for the next meeting and just have that feedback from the consultant on that question.
Can we break it up into
Can we?
multiple sections?
And then see what he says, and then we'll make our decision then. That would be my wishes.
Potentially.
the only other thing that I would ask that you guys keep in the back of your mind is, again, we're bringing that storm sewer up to design standard, our current design standard. Actually, we're coming a little bit above. We decided to, rather than take it up to a 1 in 10 storm, we decided to bring it up to a 1 in 25 storm. But that means we're only bringing it up to a 1 in 25 storm. The last three major storms that we had in town that caused the flooding across the city all exceeded that design capacity. So it's gonna flood under those events anyway. It'll handle the smaller storms, but it's not gonna handle a 1 in 50 storm or a 1 in 100 storm. And 2 years ago, when we had the storms in August and then again in September that caused a lot of that rampant flooding across the city, that was a 1 in 500 and a 1 in 750 storm. It's not gonna handle those, we're still gonna flood.
So 500 is what?
That's what they used to call a 500-year storm, but we're not,
Okay.
it's a 1 in 500 chance.
Okay.
That just means that on any given day, it has a 1 in 500 chance. You can have back-to-back 1 in 500 storms.
Right. I'd like to take care of the more common storms.
Yep.
Because a common storm floods, so that, I guess that's my
Yep.
goal. So my wish is to hold it and just see if you could touch
potentially have
base.
information by council.
Pardon?
I can potentially have information by next week.
Well, I'd rather have it at the committee and then we can discuss it.
Okay.
Thanks, Matt. That's my
Second.
wish.
One question.
Yep, Johnson.
Matt, we're looking at basically, when you say the boxes, essentially what we're looking to do is tear up the street, put these boxes under the street, and that's kind of what would hold the water until it can ultimately discharge?
That would be the south end between Limekiln and Mason.
Mm-hmm.
But once it got north of Limekiln, that would be a direct conduit. That would be your storm sewer.
Okay,
So it is not holding the water, it is conveying the water.
right, okay, got
You
it.
know, a box culvert is simply a rectangular pipe instead of a round pipe.
Right, but is it bigger? I mean, is that the
Yes.
idea?
Well, it's
Yeah.
6 feet tall and 12 feet across.
Right, yeah,
Interior.
okay.
Six
So that's what I
feet
mean
square.
by like it holds water too. I mean,
Yeah.
I understand it still flows through there, but it
Yeah.
has the capacity to hold.
Yeah, well, sometimes, box culvert sometimes trips people, they're not as familiar with them. I mean, it's a rectangular pipe instead of a round or
Right.
oblong one.
So when we're looking, at this area in particular, I mean, is there any possibility of a retention pond that could serve the same purpose? And is it because there's not land or because retention pond won't work?
There's not adequate enough space in that area. Again.
What if there was?
One of the first options that was looked at was doing underground detention for all of the East Town Mall area,
Mhm.
taking all that water out of the equation. That was a $20 million project to get 2 to 3 inches of relief in that flooding. We looked at doing a pond in Gagnon Park. That doesn't work. We looked at, there's a space between Stanley Dollar and Martin Hardware. We looked at using both the park and that property. That relieves it by about 6 inches.
So is it because of the location of the pond or because it's a pond?
Location of the pond.
Okay,
So something would have to be built right there.
remind me to talk to you about something.
Now, we did bring up the option of,
It's always going somewhere, right?
we did look at an option of, we just buy out those properties and put a pond right there.
Mhm.
Obviously, it's not great economics, if you want to call it that they just built and now we're going to tear it down. We get that, but there's other financial penalties, if you want to call it that,
Sure.
related to the TIF. So, but yeah, we're open to ideas. If we can find another engineered solution for less than 28 million to 30 million, we're open.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I think there's one on the floor, right?
I
hold.
second your motion to hold. You made a motion to hold, and I said.
Okay, I can't remember, but, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. Okay, I want to ask the committee if we can, I gotta leave soon, if we can bring 12 to surface here, number 12.
Move to amend the agenda, slide 12 to now.
Second?
Okay, motion by Johnson, move 12 to the next item of the agenda under discussion. Okay, all in favor? Nays, motion carried. All right, 12, consideration of possible action by Alderman Nicholson on behalf of Tina Bunker to have the city of Green Bay own and maintain the stormwater management ponds as part of the Grandview subdivisions. Director Kinnear, I talked to you last week about this. Can you just elaborate what you told?
Well, I reached out and had a conversation with Ms. Bunker yesterday.
Okay.
And what it actually is a request that if the city constructs the infrastructure as part of a subdivision, so we build the roads, we build the sewers, we build the water main, that the city also build the stormwater management and assess those fees back against the properties benefiting.
Okay.
Now, I'm also gonna turn this over to Matt. Matt has a synopsis of subdivision construction dating back to the adoption of the ordinance in 2001, and whether or not this is a practice that the city has engaged in previously.
So, brief history, our stormwater management ordinance was adopted in 2001. Prior to that, the easiest way to say how stormwater management was handled was get the water off my property as quickly as possible, and I don't want to deal with it. In a lot of cases, that's still the mindset until they submit a plan to us and we say, no, you need to do stormwater management. Yep, thank you. So Director Grenier stated that there was a few projects that were brought to light in his discussion with Ms. Bunker as far as where past practice may have eluded that we constructed the infrastructure and then had the developer pay a fee in lieu of because that pond existed. In 2000, McCullough Heights subdivision, which is off of over by Chris McCullough Park, the platting process started in 2000. The plat was recorded in February of 2001. Because the process had started in 2000, no stormwater management was required. The same thing happened with McCullough Heights Phase 2. That was recorded in January of '02. However, in Phase 3 of the subdivision, which was done in 2003, a fee in lieu of was generated because we were anticipating having a future pond in that area. In 2002, the city constructed a stormwater management pond at the intersection, our very first pond of that era, at the intersection of Huron and Sitka. A year later, Woodside Heights subdivision went in. So for that case, a fee in lieu of was generated because we had an existing regional pond. The Huron-Sitka pond was...
Why was that pond constructed?
That's where I'm going.
Okay.
The pond was not constructed for the anticipation of the subdivision. It was actually a requirement of the Huron Road County Trunk EA reconstruction from Mason Street up to ultimately the bridge. It was sized such that it could take development, and thereby we could then charge a fee in lieu of for the whole Woodside Heights and Star Creek Court subdivisions. 2005, Eaton Heights subdivision went in. The developer was tasked to not only design the pond, but also construct the pond, of which the developer did, and finally turn that pond over to us this year, 2019. Largo Ridge subdivision has a long history. It started in about 2004, where the developer was tasked to, again, manage stormwater on their site because of the subdivision. Revisions were made in 2005 and 2006. In 2007, we constructed a pond across the street on the south side of Lake Largo Drive, what we call our Brown County Farm Pond. Ultimately, in 2014, the Largo Ridge subdivision was constructed. Other projects out there, ponds at Baird's Creek, which is on the,
1 second, Matt,
yeah.
I'm lost. I got Grandview subdivision.
yep. Ultimately, where I'm going is a history
All right, just
that
wondering.
we do not, our practice isn't so much that we build the pond ultimately. I mean, we have built ponds prior to some developments going in, but a lot of our ponds have been retroactive, or we put the onus onto the developer. So, and that's where I was just going, was I have at least 5 subdivisions where we put the 5 or 6 subdivisions that we have put the onus directly on the developer. They have designed, they have built, ultimately they then turn them over to the city for future maintenance
And
consideration.
that's what you told me, Steve, last week. Okay, all right. Anything else, man?
That's a brief summary.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? We'll,
Motion open the floor.
motion by Johnson, open up the floor, second by Worry, under discussion here, none, all in favor?
Aye.
Days, wish carried, okay, the floor is now open, just raise your hand, recognize you, just state your name and address for the record, please.
Tina Bunker, 825 South Huron Road, Green Bay 54311.
Right.
One of the ponds that I've specifically mentioned to both Jim and Steve is Royal Woods Estates. Royal Woods Estates was, the streets were done by the city, and as part of that, the stormwater pond was dedicated, was specifically for that subdivision, was dedicated to the city, and they assessed back to the area that did it. Specifically with Grandview Place, it's a large 240-acre subdivision. The developer is really looking to have just a very consistent look and development of the area, but ultimately there will be different builders and potentially other developers that will put, develop lot and block, blocks more or less. So what we're looking to, I look at it as a regional pond to facilitate the different people that will be coming in to develop, and it's very difficult to put that up front and assess back from a developer standpoint, but the city has the vehicle to be able to do that. So, in this particular case, we are having them do the roads, and precedent is that pond was put in and assessed, back to what funnels into it. And Royal Woods Estates is, an exact example of that. When the pond was, in my history, when the pond was done and owned by the developer, they were also putting their own roads in. So they were kind of handling all of that development on their own versus having the city to do it as a special assessment through the special assessment process.
Any questions from the committee? So, okay, so Tina, what are you looking for then?
I'd like to see the ponds in Grandview be handled as regional ponds, where we'll have them, for example, do the first one, and I imagine in the future, those people that go in and decide to have a block done per se, will have the city to come in and do the work for that, but that stormwater, it's basically a fee on that assessment that has to be paid, just like your street fees and other fees that are a portion of it, that would be for that stormwater management.
No, Matt, is that against our ordinance?
What has happened when a subdivision gets platted, if there is a regional facility there, we can charge a fee in lieu of. And when we set the assessment rates, we also set that fee in lieu of rate. And then that is a fee that is paid upfront at the time that the plat is recorded.
Okay.
So it's not an assessment on the properties. That is an upfront collected cost. As far as Royal Woods goes, there was a fee in lieu of, plus there was a cost to purchase property for the pond for Royal Woods.
Okay, is that different from the Grandview subdivision?
Grandview subdivision, we don't own the property, and there is no pond there, so.
Royal Woods was one instance where something similar to what Tina's asking for was completed, but that's the only one we've been able to find. The other instances that she referred to in our conversation, Woodside Heights and Largo Ridge, there were regional ponds that were constructed for other purposes. Typically, we, as our stormwater utility, we wouldn't build a pond for a residential subdivision. If we're building a pond, we're building it for a regional application for compliance with our MS4 permit, and if we can do that and build it large enough to accommodate additional future development, then we've done that. This would be something relatively new for us. If the committee wants to do something like that and have the city build the pond, then my recommendation would be, again, you're looking at adding additional costs to the stormwater utility, which is going to drive everybody's ERU costs up because the city is holding those development costs. Instead, what we would do is we would identify all properties benefiting from that pond, and we would assess back immediately whether it's developed or not, because why should the city hold those costs? There's a cost of holding that money.
Right. Tina?
And I guess there's so many different property owners that I think that could be cost prohibitive. You know, we're trying to foster development in this area, and if it could be deferred on the parcels that have, you know, paid for the ones that have, you know, use it right away, but deferred for the ones that have a future use for it, basically.
But by deferring, then the stormwater utility is going to have to absorb that cost, which is going to drive up the stormwater utility costs. That's all I'm explaining. The deferrals work out good for the property owner, but it forces the city through the stormwater utility to pay for that cost and hold that cost, and we don't get to renegotiate that, okay? If we defer an assessment, we have to borrow money, and that goes into our bonding cost. We're paying that off over 20 years, and there's no ability to prepay it if somebody turns around and pays that assessment. So we got 20 years of interest on there as holding costs, automatic. Again, if that's your decision, that's fine. I just want you guys to know what the financial impacts to the city are on something like that.
Well, it's good to know. Right. Johnson?
Is there a time sensitivity for this particular item for you?
Well, I do have a project that I have been trying to subdivide for 3 years now. I'm on my second buyer of it that I have lost. My past experience with the city, I expected to follow this, you know, type of development. And I was surprised in June of this year when I was told that was not how they were planning to handle that particular project. And I've kind of been giving these examples. I mean, is it timely, like I need this done tomorrow? No, but I would really like to be able to sell these parcels, this particular parcel, shortly after the first of the year and have that development finally get off the ground. It's been literally years that
So-
I've been trying to work through this.
So if we held this for a month, and I'll explain why in a second, this wouldn't derail anything for you? I understand we want decisions
At this
quickly,
point,
but.
a month isn't, you know,
Okay.
it's small potatoes in the grand scheme of everything, but I do have a contract that is going to expire again shortly.
Okay.
And that would be coming very close to what that date is in a month.
Okay.
Question, Johnson, what are you getting at? If this is time sensitive, what are you
Well, it
thinking?
goes back to the same question I had earlier, and then, you know, I'm looking at this agenda item. Background is blank, recommendation is blank, fiscal impact is blank. I mean, Matt, I appreciate the background you gave us, but boy, that's a lot of information and content to synthesize here in our heads. I still don't know what the fiscal impact is on this. I'm still not entirely certain what the staff recommendation is. I mean, that type of stuff in written format presented to the committee ahead of time would, I think, really help us make a better decision here. And I don't want to speak for the rest of the committee members right now, but I'm still having a tough time wrapping my brain around all this and what exactly is happening and the type of money that we're talking about. So my point is if we held this for a month and we had this information presented to us in written format, that we could make a more informed decision, I know that would help me, provided it doesn't, again, derail anything that's in place for the property owner. But again, that's where I sit right now. I'm not sure where the rest of the committee sits, but.
Well, I'll be honest with you, Alderman, I don't know that we're gonna be able to estimate the financial impact, because if we change this, if we go to this as an approach, this is gonna be available to every developer out there. So anyone who's building a subdivision has the same option to have us front the money and hold it for 20 years, and then piecemeal it back as the properties are developed.
So what you're saying is this is completely, I guess, an unprecedented practice right
Well,
now?
I'm not gonna say it's unprecedented. In a manner of speaking, something like this was done with an imminent development project where we were able to, the developer was required to purchase 1.5 acres of land immediately adjacent to the development, dedicate that over to the public, and then we built the pond and immediately assessed it back against the resultant parcels that would benefit. What we're talking about here is potentially building a regional pond that could service 20 acres, I don't know, 10 acres. Having a limited number of single-family residential homes and then a large tract or several tracts of undeveloped farmland that will remain as undeveloped farmland. That pond would be sized big enough to handle the flow from all of it, but only be assessed back against those individually platted small lots. Any of the big lots, which are subject to future subdivision, are being requested to be deferred, at which case the city's gonna have to incur that debt service and pay that off over the course of 20 years. We are the bank, we're the holding company at that point. So I think something like that, especially on this kind of scale, if it was done on one subdivision, that's one thing. If we're talking about making a policy change and doing that across the city for all developers, that's something quite different.
Well, that's kind of what I was getting at, is there a gap in our ordinance that needs to be tightened up to provide greater clarity on this, on these types of transactions?
I don't think so, because each year we send out a letter to developers, and I think as part of, does the developer's letter talk about stormwater management?
Yes.
That's added in there, correct.
Okay, and we identify that, as part of a subdivision, you are required to, and that's on any development or redevelopment. That's in the ordinance, it's very clear that it indicates that the developer is responsible for managing their water. Now again, if as part of our MS4 permit, we have reason to put a large regional pond in someplace, more often than not, that is like Huron. When Huron Road went in, we knew that there was a need to have stormwater management for that road, so we put the large pond in at Huron and Sitka, and while designing that pond, somebody had the foresight to size it large enough to provide stormwater management for a future subdivision on the east side of Huron Road. So then we had that pond there, and there was capacity in it, so we were allowed to let somebody essentially buy in. Generally speaking, with a residential subdivision, the but-for test, the only reason that pond is required is for somebody to build the subdivision. And I guess there's a parallel that I would draw. The decision was made to utilize the vehicle registration fees for reconstruction and resurfacing, but not for new streets. But for that subdivision, that new street wouldn't be required. There's a case to be made here that but for the subdivision, the stormwater management's not required because farmland is not subject to the stormwater requirements.
Well, and you could also make the argument that farmland doesn't pay as much in taxes as a bunch of
Correct.
new homes.
Yep.
I mean, and we should maybe figure out a way to make that happen. I mean, is stormwater fees the way that we fund this right now, or is TIF an option?
That you would have to discuss with,
Economic development?
yeah.
Tina?
Can I please describe Royal Woods Estates? So Royal Woods Estates was done in two parts. It was about 20 acres, and it was done exactly like what I'm asking here, where a part of it was put in, and there was no timing on a second phase, which was done 2 to 3 years later. I believe that second phase was done. So it's really not, so yes, it sat out there. There really has not been a lot of development over the last 10 years, and a lot of that was done privately. So I think that this is a precedent that one would look to as to how this has been handled in the past. I mean, if you look, permits are down, I believe, 50%, I think, from 18 to 19 in the city of Green Bay, but they're going gangbusters. It's just so difficult to get anything done right now, and other municipalities are looking for ways to help them versus looking for ways to hinder growth.
Any questions from the committee for Tina Bunker? If not, do you have anything else, Tina?
Motion to close the floor.
Motion to close the floor.
Second.
Regular order of business by Johnson, second by Burnett. Under discussion, you're not all in favor, nays, motion carried. Okay, what are the wishes of the committee? We're in regular order of business.
Make a motion to deny.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to deny. Is there a second? Failed for a second. Entertain a motion.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I did like the idea, as Alder Johnson stated, if we could get a little bit more detailed in writing. You have great information, but it was flying pretty fast and furious, and understood most of it, but
Well, I found out about it this morning.
Yeah.
So I quickly
no, and you did a
threw information down, so.
great job, but I really want to make an informed decision on this because it's a big one. I mean, it's a big policy change and it affects quite a bit, so I think you could, by our next meeting, have something down, you know, what, maybe a little bit of the history or what it would mean to change it, you know, financially, or, you know, the best you can. I know we can't get exact, but is that kind of what you're looking for, Lynn? No, I'm just,
Yeah, especially in the financial side of it, because I think in the city of Green Bay, we have to find more ways to say yes. And we have to find ways to, I mean, to take these developments and put houses on them so we can tax them and not just sit on a farm field for 3 years. I mean, there's just something fundamentally misguided about that, but to your point, like, I need the information to make the right decision. And I'm not feeling that loop is closed for me right now.
I agree.
So did you make the motion to hold?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to hold it.
Motion by Weary to hold. Is there a
Second.
second? Second by Johnson. Under discussion, Weary? Any,
I think you had stated earlier, what information would you like to see, Alder Johnson? You had kind of rattled off a few things.
Honestly, like if Matt compiled everything he just gave us verbally, put that in writing, and then I think, and I understand your point, Director Grenier, that maybe we don't have a clear vision of fiscal impact, but I think there's gotta be something that says, here's the things we know, and here's the variables that we can't quite pin down, and here's why. That would be very useful for me, along with the staff recommendation.
Steve, do you have all that?
Yes, sir.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. I gotta go. Johnson, can you, Alderman Johnson,
Yep.
can you take over?
Thank you.
Which item are we on here?
Well, actually, I'm gonna check. Are you Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Schaefer has arrived, so.
Entertain a motion to move item 1 to the next agenda item.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 1, consideration of possible action on request by Alder Dorff on behalf of Gerald Schaefer at 1608 Sonata Drive, being dissatisfied with repairs done to an area on or near his property that resulted in a sprinkler head being removed. Director Grenier.
And actually, this I'm going to defer to City Attorney Chavez.
Thank you. So the issue we have right now is that Mr. Schaefer's actually submitted a claim against the city on this matter. It is currently pending. He submitted it on, I believe, the 19th of last month. And so it is actually going to be before the claims committee at that time, or at our next meeting, which is coming up, I think, this week or next week. And so at that time, we will be undertaking an investigation. We do a pretty thorough investigation of all of the claims that happen. And so I would recommend you hold this. I would actually recommend you refer it to the claims committee for us to do our review on it. And if there's anything that needs to be brought to you guys, we're more than happy to bring it back as an explanation of what we found as part of the process.
Okay.
If I could.
Alder
Thank you. Thank you, Attorney. What's the amount of the claim?
300.
300,000 or $300?
$300.
$300, oh, okay. So it'd be something that, I think, and our level was 50,000, right? I think?
25.
25,000.
Mhm.
Okay, so,
I see Mr. Schaefer would like to speak. You guys want to open the floor?
Before I.
You have a question?
For,
Alder
yeah,
Burnett?
for Attorney Chavez, if the gentleman does approach the committee and we say one thing or another as a member of the committee, do you recommend we just hear what he has to say and just not state anything as a committee, because we oversee the claims process?
So the claims, the way the claims ordinance is set up is anything under $25,000, the claims committee, since there are so many of us on it, we have final jurisdiction over that. That jurisdiction is actually been delegated to the committee itself, so that would not fall under the council's oversight anymore.
Fair enough.
But at the same time, once we have an opportunity to every claimant has a different approach. Some like to be very involved in providing information to us. And so if Mr. Schaefer wants to do that, we will listen to whatever he has to say. And anything that doesn't get resolved, he could bring here. The claim itself, that $300, that would be outside of that.
Thank you.
So this would be a perfectly acceptable forum today to listen to Mr. Schaefer. You can take that information.
The concern that I have is that the entire committee is not here. And so any information that I would be relaying would just be relaying that information.
Except it's public, so
Yeah.
committee could get it.
No, I get that. So that's the first one, and the second one is the purpose of the claims committee is to actually do this process for you all. So that it takes out the political component of it.
Okay. Any other questions for Attorney Chavez? No?
Alder Dorf have any?
I had tried to explain via email that this is probably what would happen, that it would go to claims first. But my understanding from the last email I got from Mr. Schaefer was he was going to be here. So, and I didn't think I could be here because my committee met at the same time, but then I got done earlier, so I came. So I didn't really know that he was going to be here tonight. I thought he had an appointment. Is that correct?
But then I called, and then I was told that I could be moved to the rear of the agenda.
But nobody told me that. But
I know, so I didn't hear that from you, so then I heard it from somebody that I called. And so I hustled over here after my doctor's appointment. Here's the bottom line, I made the
Okay.
claim not on the
But
19th.
you can't talk yet.
Let's,
Maybe
okay.
you should just,
why don't we just,
You
Well,
listen to
I'm gonna
him?
increase the dollar
Can you
amount
just
if
listen
I
to
gotta
him?
come back. My time's worth.
excuse me, Mr. Schaefer, so someone will make a motion to open the floor? Okay.
he's here.
I'll make a motion to open the floor.
I'll second that. We have a motion by Alder Wery, second by Alder Johnson to open the floor for interested parties. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, these are tough situations. I'll listen to the gentleman. I think that's our duty, but I'm not gonna comment. You know, I'll state that up front. So to the speaker, I'm not gonna ask questions. I'll vote to allow you to address the committee, but any decision or discussion we have, I just think puts us at a very ethical dilemma, in my opinion.
Okay. Is there any discussion regarding opening the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Mr. Schaefer, if you could just please state your name and address for the record.
Sure, Gerald John Schaefer, 1608 East Sonata Drive, Green Bay, 54311. I made the claim on October 30th, not the 19th, so that's inaccurate. This has been a problem for over 19 years. Okay, I've been waiting patiently for 19 years. I built the house, and I was here to just, for two things. To ask this committee to make the recommendation to the city attorney to pay me $300, make this problem go away. And that's more than generous for the time that I sunk into me being a citizen of the Green Bay community to get something repaired. And then it eventually ended up affecting my personal property. So I was here for two things. For you guys to make the recommendation to, let's get this thing ended, give me my $300 and we'll call it fair. It's taking so much of my time that I'm tempted to amend the claim now to start charging what I typically charge my customers, and that's $200 an hour. It's beyond ridiculous. 19 years this has been going on. The theme here, that I'm going to try to keep this very high level, the theme here is it's just been nothing but a string of uncooperative behaviors for mutual benefit, so that we could just take a simple problem and just get it done, work together between the city and a citizen of the community and get something fixed. It's ridiculous how this has gone on. This started in May, and we're now 8 months down the road, and we're talking about a lawsuit for $300. It's totally ridiculous. It's taken 12 emails from me, 12 emails from Alderman Dorf, 3 emails from the city's department. Level of communication has been zipped, non-existent. I've been a project manager for 36 years, large capital project management. I'm certified, PMP certified by PMI. I have done very, very large projects. I've personally been involved in the construction of over 200 homes. I personally held a contractor's license in this very city. I built my own house 3 times. I built spec homes. I was raised in the building business. And when I get lectured from the department about permitting and did I have the proper permits for a sprinkler? Yeah, I did. There was nothing but a series of failures to success, I call it, from Mr. Grenier's department. And it goes back to day one. I'll just hit the highlights. I got photographs and everything. Communication's been non-existent, very poor. I called the city in May, coming out, I fixed this sprinkler head. Just about every house in my neighborhood out in Lake Largo is where I live. Just about every house has an in-ground sprinkler system. When I personally sat at the counter here to get the building permits with my framer, we got the permits, we had the sewer permits, everything was done legit, okay? And when his department tells me that his records don't show that there was ever a sprinkler permit put in, I can't help that. I have to trust that it's done right. But I know I paid for them. I know I paid for everything. When I come to court, I'll bring the binder, and then I'll prove it. I called the city in May. Can you come out and take a look at this? The sewer is busted up. I'll give you the pictures. I'll give you the pictures right now. You can take a look at it. I'll give you all my evidence, and then it'll be really, really easy for you guys to defend your case. The pictures are so obvious, it's ridiculous. I don't even need these back. This is them. This is the original condition. It's so busted up the water won't even go in the sewer. Then the city comes out and they decide to do a repair and they pour liquid tar in a 2-inch gap, thinking they're going to fill a 2-inch gap and stop the water from going behind the curb. In the meantime, it's sucking the ground down and it's pulling my sprinkler head. I repaired that sprinkler head 3 times over 19 years. Dug out the ground, lifted up the head, put more ground in because it's filling into the bottom of the sewer vertical, and it's filling in because it's not connected right. I did that 3 times. I wasn't going to do it this time. I called in early May so that we could get it all done, work together. Guys, let me know when you're going to fix the curb. I'll be out there. I'll pull the sprinkler head back. I'll dig it out myself. I'll pull it back, form it, pour it. I'll put it back. End of story. City comes out after numerous phone calls and emails, phone calls that didn't respond to anything, so then I result to a written communication. I come home, and then that's how they scope it out. Right there is how they scope it out, the pink paint. Whoever scoped this out can't even see that the whole pavement is busted out. I don't know if you've seen that, but that's horrible. I send an email back to the city saying, who's scoping this? You're gonna make a cut line and then 6 inches away it's still busted out? I sent that email. Let's do it right. Cut it 6 more inches out to the side. Those yellow arrows are my arrows. If I hadn't done it, that's the job you would have got. I send that email out, no response. Like I said, 3 emails. Over the course of 8 months, I get 3 emails. Come home, and then that's what you see. That's what I'm gonna get for my taxes. My over $7,000 a year in taxes. This is the kind of work I get. And then I get an email. The one email that I get from the director is written in a fashion looking down the nose. It was very offensive to me. Alderman Dorff heard it from me. She took the heat for the email that came like I didn't know what I was talking about. Who doesn't know what they're talking about? Look at those pictures. U.S. Mail was complaining about it. The water was pooling there. It won't go in the drain. It goes out in the middle of the street. U.S. Mail sends me a letter saying they're not going to deliver the mailbox, that I should get out there and start chopping ice in front of my mailbox because it's pooling up and it's going out on the street. I told the U.S. Mail, the director, the postmaster at Conference Station, I told him, take it up with the city. And that's where it ended. I wish I would have saved those letters. That was like 3 years ago. Still pooling up. I'm almost done. So I get home when they poured the very first time I get out there, I get home, I showed you the pictures of where they poured the tar in there. They poured tar in a 2-inch gap and they throw ground on top of my sprinkler head and plant grass seed. I didn't ask you guys to fix my lawn. I asked you to fix the curb. Fix the stuff you're responsible for. So you buried my sprinkler head. I couldn't even take a picture of it for my case so that when we talk and try to resolve this, I can prove that there was a sprinkler head there because it comes up later. I see the construction signs. Finally, we're getting something to move. I see construction signs there. I see the spray paint. Send the emails. I look at the sign and I find out that Fisher Ullman's the contractor. Okay, I wrote it down. Nobody calls me and says, hey Jerry, it's going to be done. Maybe you can get out there. Get out there with your shovel and maybe you can pull your sprinkler back and get ready. We're coming. I don't get a phone call. I come home from work one day, everything's ripped out. It's ripped out so bad and so deep that I don't even know where my sprinkler, the end of the hose is anymore. So now I got a buried hose in the ground with the dirt thrown back on top of it, and now I got who knows what with water migrating back to the next sprinkler head. Now this spring, I'm going to have to turn on the water and flood the area and find out how far back and I have pictures of that. Now I have to find out where the hose was cut. Here's the best part, is after I see that, then I call the mayor. I didn't get one phone call, can we work together, Jared? We're going to be out there this Thursday. Or work it with Fisher Ullman. They'll be out there. Work it with them. When they go out there, I would have taken a day off to make this happen. Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. It's all torn up. I get home, surprise, surprise. It's almost like a up yours kind of an attitude. Because we didn't have it in our records that you had a sprinkler system there. I even forgot to mention the fact that when they first went out there to put that tar, pour the tar in there, they plugged the drains. Without even pulling the files, I talked to Dave W. from the department. I don't even know his last name, but when I talked to him, they were plugging some lateral going in there. But I have downspouts. I said, did you check to see where my downspouts? I had a permit for the downspouts to be going into the storm sewer. Oh no, I didn't know that. Well, why are you guys plugging laterals without checking the records for where the downspouts? I think right now it's plugged and my downspouts in my garage are filling up against a stop. And I'm hoping the ground's taking it. I hope I don't have water pressure now on my foundation in my garage. Because I asked very specifically in an email, please answer this question. I still don't have that answer. I called the mayor's office after everything was all torn off. I talked to Jared, his assistant. I tell him the whole story, the 27 emails that started in May, we're down 8 months. We have a lawsuit now for $300, $172, here's the quote, $172 for the sprinkler company, the company that installed it to fix it, $172. I couldn't believe it was that cheap. I rounded it off to $300 for my time for being an associate project manager for this department to get the job done right, otherwise you would have had it scoped wrong. It's still not done right, it's like I mentioned, that plug, and I'm arguing about it. I have lost more money on this job trying to help the city and try to work together than what it's worth. So if I have to file the $94.50 to take it to civil court and I waste more of her time, more of your time, we can do that. We can do that because that's what seems to get attention around here. That's the way it looks to me. All right, never one attempt, and I guess the thing that's very interesting to me is Jared says to me after I tell him the whole story, he said, I was told that there was never a sprinkler there, it was never removed, we never removed a sprinkler out of your lawn. Somebody's lying to Jared, somebobody's lying to the mayor, and it ain't me. You think I don't have anything else to do but to come here and ask for $300 for a fictitious sprinkler head? So either your subcontractors are lying to you, or your city employees are lying to you. Whoever dug out that lawn that day when I was at work, they took my sprinkler head and I want it back. Or pay me the $300. And the best part about it is Alderman Dorff is hearing all of this chatter, wondering the same thing what I'm wondering. Why can't we work together? Why can't Green Bay be a city where the citizens pull together and make it a nice place? I hear Tina Bunker wanting to build up a development. I've known Tina Bunker for years. This is so frustrating, so frustrating. And then what happens when Alderman Dorff is doing her best to try to make people work together? She's telling me when the meeting is, and I get the notice for this meeting last Friday. Last Friday, I get the formal letter in the mail, and I'm supposed to drop everything and be here on Tuesday because she told me the first meeting was Wednesday. It worked fine. Then I get a letter, and it's like, now it's Tuesday. We change more emails again. Okay, fine, things change, okay? I get it, things change. But, all right, now I've sat here another hour. $300. If this goes to court, I'm very tempted to total up all my time, the 27 emails from 8 months from May. I'm tempted to do that. I guess I'm done. I would like this committee to recommend that it's not worth her time to argue over $300. That would be good value. That would be good business at this point. I'm done.
Any questions?
I just have a statement. It's true, this has gone on and on. I actually have 40 emails here that I just counted that was just since June. And I actually talked to the city person who went and checked on the sprinkler system, and I don't remember what her name was, but she had actually contacted then the contractor and said that she's worked with him a long time, and he said, the subcontractor said he didn't see a sprinkler head. So it's coming from the subcontractor that they didn't see a sprinkler head, but one is missing. And I know it's just been very frustrating for Mr. Shaver. It has. And things are fixed now. The curb is fixed. We're just down. But I also know that you guys really can't do what he's asking you to do. I understand that. I know that the process has to be the government process where it has to go to the claims committee. That is the only place it can go. But I understand his frustration and why he's asking you to do something that you really can't probably do. So that's all I've got to say.
I will add this. I asked both contractors, then I found out that Feker and Sons were involved with it. Somebody decided to cut the road up all the way to the center of the street, the center storm sewer. That's not even done right. A couple of years back, that rim of that manway sits at least 2 inches higher than the road. Two winters ago, the plow came through, lifted that cover up, and took the cover off, and there was a big hole there. And kids were standing there waiting to get on a school bus to go to school. I called the police department, non-emergency number, and I said, you got a hole in the middle of the street. If a school bus or some other car comes through there, their wheel's gonna go down there, and it's gonna create an accident, or some kid's gonna fall there, whatever. Sir, can you stay there till a police officer comes, or till the city can put a barrel or something in front of it? I'm going to work. I said, no, it's not my responsibility. I'm calling you. Then I waited for a cop, and a cop sat there. This was 2 years ago, because the sewer isn't right. You can see it in the pictures. It's sitting higher. The repair that was just made on this curb, whoever put the asphalt in there, okay, it's not right. It's still low. The water's gonna pool to the street, and it's gonna get high enough, it's gonna freeze, and then it'll run to the curb. It's already doing it now with this last freezing rain. It's not flush. And the contractor that claims that there was no sprinkler head, I questioned them about it. They're saying either you said it, Feker, or Fisher Ullman, you're saying that there was never a sprinkler head there. And they said, we're not gonna comment on it. If there's gonna be a lawsuit, we're not gonna comment on it. But I said, I don't know who the project manager was. I found out from Ullman that it was this Jennifer McCarthy, I believe. I got her name written here. And they said, yeah, she's really fun to work with. And that was sarcasm. And I said, if she's the same gal that did the road up on Lake Largo Drive at the top, a couple of years ago, that intersection was done, I had to call her and ask her, when are you gonna remove the barriers? And she goes, when it's all painted and striped and everything's all done. I said, do you know that's been done for 3 weeks and you still got barriers there? She didn't know that. I told her she needs to get out of her seat and go look at her jobs like a real project manager. Okay, I'll wait.
Yep, any questions?
Motion to close the floor. Second.
I have a motion by Alder Brunette to close the floor, second by Alder Weary. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Nay, motion carries. Committee, what's your pleasure?
I'd like to defer to the judgment of the city attorney and refer to the claims committee.
There's a motion?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second that, and under discussion. Okay.
Yep, so we have a motion by Alder Brunette, a second by Alder Weary. Discussion, Alder Weary.
Apologize you went through all that. I mean, whoever's fault, whatever happened, whatever it's worth, I'm sorry you went through that.
I
Okay.
appreciate that, but this is not good business, guys. I expect more for $7,000 a year.
Thank
I'm
you.
done.
I think the correct path is to go there right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, we have a process in place that's intended to protect all taxpayers, and this is the process, so I support as well referral to the Claims Committee. Glad we had the opportunity for Mr. Schaefer to share what he wanted to share, but I do think we got to follow the process.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. We are on to item 6, consideration of possible action request by Alder Stoyer to study and report out on the feasibility of utilizing the even-odd residential address overnight parking scenario as it's done in Milwaukee in order to relieve the parking problems at residences with limited parking spaces held at the November 12, 2019 Improvement Services Committee meeting. Alder
Hold for
Stoyer.
3 years.
That's it?
Hold for 3 years. That'd be a new motion. Yes, kid. I'm a smart fidget.
What? And then very quiet
Yeah, good one.
in the back. Well, thank you, committee. We've been talking about this for some time. Like I said, originally I brought this forward from a citizen who has a small house in terms of, it's a corner lot, single stall garage, 3 cars, they only got room for 2. So it's generally, it seems to be a central city issue more than outlying areas. So I was looking at it strictly from a standpoint of trying to help out citizens as far as parking. And I was talking about the even odd situation that Milwaukee has. As you can tell by the sheet I handed out, it's kind of all over the board. I guess what I'm asking for, I'm not even asking for winter parking. You know, and a lot of cities have November 1st through March 31st as you can't park. So I think that was one of the concerns that Public Works had brought up, and the police as well. So that's not even something I would entertain. So you're talking 5 months. So that's a good chunk of the year. As you can tell, there's inconsistent regulations citywide throughout Wisconsin. This is just 16 cities that I looked at. I think some of the concerns were about other folks parking in front of your house with this even odd scenario. My thought is that if you have a parking permit, one parking ticket is, Steve, what is it, $27.50 for an overnight parking ticket? Or
27 right now.
27? So if you had 1, maybe 2 parking tickets, you know, the permit would cover that. So a lot of folks are getting parking tickets, and I think that's just one of the, I think people would rather pay for a permit. I think some folks are also complaining, I know the police have brought this up too, about, you know, junk cars, or maybe there'd be someone homeless living in a car in front of your house. I think one of the situations that I look at is that if you have a permit in your car, that it would, you know, maybe there's something that could be stated that it would be in front of your house and then across the street if it was an even odd type of thing. If you don't have a permit, then you'd go through the same situation. You'd be ticketed or towed or what have you, or cited. So I don't buy that in that sense. I did call the City of Milwaukee Parking Utility, and they mentioned that last year they raised $4.5 million in revenues from this system. And Green Bay being about 1/6 the size of Milwaukee, that would be roughly $750,000, a little bit more, that possibly could be raised in revenue. And as you know, with the contentious budget that we had this year, you know, one of the things I've stated that I will try to do is look at other ways to bring revenues into the city. And so this is a secondary factor that comes into play, not just from the people who are parking and have issues that way, but also looking at it as a revenue source. Like I said before, most cities I looked at prohibit winter parking. So like I said, November 1st through March 31st, I'm fine with that. That's 5 months out of the year. That's almost half the year. I think I kind of stated it. Going through each of the websites, it's a little difficult sometimes. They're not very clear. Some of them are clearer than others, but generally speaking, with overnight parking, it's usually a 2:30 to 6 or 2 to 5 in the morning, that type of thing. And I know that Milwaukee, where I grew up, had the even odd. And I think that's another reason I brought it forward, because Milwaukee's a much bigger city and they have other issues with parking and things like that, but it seemed to work there. And of the 16 cities that I looked at, 12 of them had some kind of scenario that way. And some of these are older communities, some are newer communities. So, and I've heard, Director Perlott and Director Grenier and Chief Smith speak about this at length, and I've heard it. I understand, their side of it. I'm not, waving the flag and saying, well, if it doesn't happen, I'm going to get really upset about it. I'm just bringing this forward because I'm looking at it as, this is an issue, I feel, And I feel that we have an opportunity to bring some revenues into the city as well. So that's it, and I'll be here for other discussion and question, but I wanted to bring it to the committee again and see what your thoughts might be.
What do you ultimately want to see, Mark?
I would like to see, I think the even odd parking scenario, it has worked in other cities. I think that it could work here. So I guess that would be my ultimate. Have it permitted so that it could be $35, $40 a year per car. I know some folks get worried about, well, other people are gonna park in front of my house. I mean, you could actually bring language into it that would say that, you know, maybe you park in front of your house and then across the street, back and forth, rather than parking or pell-mell all over the place. I don't know, maybe that opens up a can of worms, but I'm looking at it strictly from the merit of what it is. I'm looking at even odd parking. You know, I'd say the central city definitely. When you get out to the farther regions of the west and east side, it's not an issue at all. So.
What do you want the action of the committee to be today?
Well, winter is upon us, so my thought is that we, it's not time sensitive per se, you know, that I would like to see something in place by springtime.
My point is, like, we don't have an ordinance in front of us or any kind of change to look at to actually vote yes or no on.
Okay.
So is there a directive that you
Well, I
are
guess the
seeking from
directive,
staff?
the directive that I would like to see would be for staff to, even though they were against it, so that might be difficult, but I think if the committee directed the staff to come up with a scenario that would say, yes, we can do an even odd parking scenario for the city, and that there would be a fee imposed for a permit, that, you know, that would be another revenue source, you know, for the city. I would entertain that. So I don't know if that's specific enough. Do you want a little more?
So-
Like I said, it's not time sensitive in the sense, I would like to see something in place by spring.
Okay.
So I would say April 1st.
Okay. Thank you. Unless you guys have questions for Mark, Boulder Story. Right.
No.
Staff, I know you've given your input at previous meetings. Is there additional input you'd like to provide?
Well, what you would have, in my opinion, what you would be doing is you would have to adopt a policy to allow for an on-street permitted parking program, because currently that's not permitted by ordinance. So number one, you'd have to adopt a policy change, and then the second phase of that would be to adopt, or to prepare draft ordinance language to accomplish that, if that's the direction that you're headed.
Committee?
Thank you to Alder Stoyer for bringing it forward again. I haven't, and this goes back to my time representing the 8th district, I haven't had too many interactions with people who are really pushing for this change. From what we've been told from staff is that when there are situations that come up, our current system carves out some level of exception that seems to work fine for most people. Understanding public policy, you're not going to make 100% of the people happy. You're probably not going to make 80 or 90% of the people happy, but in my opinion, the system we have seems to be working fine, because I haven't seen, and this is just me speaking, I haven't seen a huge outcry from the public, other than a few things I've seen on social media here and there. I think my term in office this time around, I haven't received a single phone call on overnight parking, and this has been in the media for a few times now, and so it's hard for me to push forward with something if, in my opinion, the outcry from the community is not that great for a change. I'm also having a hard time getting past what the objections of the police department were. That to me is a very compelling case to keep it where it is, short of a huge public discussion in order to overturn it, which hasn't happened to this point. So I'm content with keeping it as is, unless we have you know, much greater public input that I hear. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Like I said at the last meeting, I was always in favor of having some overnight parking, and, you know, last time I had some reservations. Since that time, I had done a newsletter asking everybody their opinion on it, and sent out a couple hundred emails, so, it's a 60-40 split. 60% of respondents want to change, 40% don't. The more passionate people are definitely in the 60%. Most people don't care, or just didn't bother to comment, or for them it wasn't, whatever, really, they just, I don't know, whatever, until they maybe experience the bad results of changing it, or, so, that's been my experience in District 8. I did, one of the residents mentioned about Syracuse, they used to live there, so I looked up Syracuse, and they have even odd parking, and they get 130 inches of snow a year, you know, twice what we get. And so I reached out to Syracuse and talked to a couple different people there, and they said it works fine for them. I guess back in the 80s, they used to have parking on both sides of the street, and they changed it to one, and then the other two take care of snow removal. That's about all the contact I had with them, but it seemed like if it could work for them, I don't know why it couldn't work for us. I don't know about the fee, though. When they bring that up with people, they're real happy about that idea. So I wouldn't mind sending this to staff to look at an even odd parking solution, maybe with or without permits.
And I think, I mean, to me, I have, obviously I represent a little bit older part of the city where I do have this challenge a lot. And, you know, the sort of the you know, I kind of floated the permit fee by a few people. You know, if we, you know, and I don't know if we've really talked about that at length, where if we've just did a permit, we didn't do even odd. It was just a permit only, but it would allow you to park on the street year-round. You know, if that would potentially be an option. But I'm still having a hard time, I think, getting over the objections of, you know, saying that there's not many people that need this, but then, you know, but then we argue that the city's going to turn into a dumpster fire if it happens. And I'm not saying staff's making that argument. I mean, that's just some of the conversations I've had with different people. And so, so I guess I'm just having a tough time reconciling those two arguments. You know, and I think if this is something that could reasonably, you know, serve a number of people in our community, I think there's a lot of discussion about, you know, visitors and how sometimes, you know, the 6 allowances that we have don't always serve that purpose. I know in Southern, you know, I was looking at some place, I think it was Chicago, where they actually allow you to buy packs. And so that was interesting to me, so that if you do have visitors often, you can literally buy a pack of overnight passes. But even, I was just in Chicago the other day as well, or the other weekend, and one of the things that they had, you know, was signs up that just said, you know, no parking when there's 2 inches or more snow. And, you know, that's kind of a nice way to, I guess, to get around the snow emergency situation. As if it's properly posted, we're gonna bring the plows through and it's 2 inches, which I think is our policy in residential streets right now. Could that be an easy solution? So I still think, at least from my experience, that there are a number of residents that struggle with this, not only from a day-to-day perspective, but when they have guests, when they have, you know, when they don't wanna drive. That's kind of what the Safe Park issue is, you know, intended to resolve, but that didn't hit every hole either. And so I'm for continuing to explore this. It's very difficult to make decisions when you don't have an ordinance in front of you. And so it would intrigue me to at least see a draft of a possible ordinance revision. Burnett?
Thank you, that's actually a good point, because whatever you gentlemen decide as far as the motion goes, I would recommend that it has some teeth to it, because we've referred to staff a number of times, and we get sort of the same thing, which then compels us as a majority to vote against a change. So I think that's what you're trying to get from Alder Stoyer, is what motion can be made to actually have staff create something that we can look at and vote on, rather than just what the recommendation is. So that's all I have to say.
Chris, from your experience, are you aware of other communities that take the even odd discussion out of the equation, that just have a permitting structure that would allow people to park overnight?
The only one I'm aware of is Milwaukee. I think it's $55 a year. You can have your pass out of your car. Just
And the only reason I bring that up too, real quickly, Chris, is because, I mean, when you have a permitting system, I think a lot of the fear is, you know, that people may park a car and never move it, or, you know, at least a permitting system gives you a way to address that. You can revoke the permit, you know, if they violate certain guidelines, guideline being you can't, cars gotta be moved every 48 hours or whatever it might be. So that's kind of the only, at least rationalization that's kind of going through my mind, but.
just at the last meeting, last time it was discussed, the committee had asked for just a summary of the metro area. And I agree with Alderman Stoyer's online research. You know, it is kind of hard to navigate some of their sites. So I talked to our in-person, to our communities around us. Obviously, Green Bay, we talk to ourselves. We don't answer ourselves, but City of De Pere, Village of Bellevue, Village of Howard, Village of Alloway, Village of Ashwaubenon. Bellevue, Howard, Alloway, Ashwaubenon, no parking 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. except during winter months, which is basically November 1st, either March 31st or April 1st. And talking to those 4 villages, every single one of them said, and you know, you should have a summary of it, but you know, where I highlighted or bolded, that was their exact word. Exceptions are very seldom granted, few exceptions granted, no exceptions granted by village. A very, very rare occurrence. Ashwaubenon was, their ordinance is pretty strict. You have to submit your exception request in advance, in writing, to the Public Safety Department. Basically, it's don't even ask, was my take on it, because it's, you know, a total administrative process. City of De Pere, no parking 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. This was kind of unique that I didn't realize. I thought it was year-round, just like us. It is year-round. No parking 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. year-round, but it's only Sunday night through Thursday night. So they allow Friday night, Saturday night. You know, your in-laws coming in, friends coming in, that type of thing.
I would imagine city services like street sweeping are not happening over the weekend. Would that be correct?
Generally speaking, right. Yeah. And an interesting one also, just to add on, I don't need to drag this out. Alloway, I'm born and raised in Alloway, but I never realized this unless this is something relatively new. On your garbage day, it is no parking on your street from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m.
That's new because of automated.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of interesting. So even if it's parking allowed, if it's my garbage day, I can't park out there. So that was kind of interesting to find out. And I did a slight, you know, just a minimal financial impact. If we go to even odd, that question was also asked. Basically, you're getting rid of all the revenue for overnight on-street parking citations. But based on what our discussions with City of Milwaukee, they said that basically they see 30% of, compared to if they would have, wouldn't allow the on-street parking. Their estimation is they still 30% of their citations would be, they'd have overnight on-street parking violation citations because of people who get confused. Which is the right side, which is the wrong side. So based on that assumption, that's the only thing I had to go on. If you were just purely numbers, parking division would lose $231,000 a year revenue if we went to even odd without a permit. You know, if there's a permit, obviously there's revenue to compensate.
Would you lose staff?
No, well, we
Because you
still
don't need to enforce it
We
overnight.
still need to enforce, and because there is a nighttime parking ordinance.
But would it be less staff? I don't know how many staff you
No,
use
there
right
wouldn't. We
now.
only have 4 people, no more than 3 are working on any one day. And we have 46 square miles.
Yeah.
So we pick and choose on our enforcement. If we went to a permitted system, right now, as parking manager, I know that we run to standstill. We really should have. We've talked briefly about, you know, what if another half-time person in the office. If we went to a permit type system where you're, have more activity, revenue movement, yada yada, issuing permits, we'd have to have another full-time staff member in the office. So I can run those numbers, that's not a big deal. We can show what's the cost. I can draft ordinance text all day long. That's what we do for a living. So I can have that stuff prepared if that's what you're asking.
I do have a question. Chris, good information. Am I reading this right, that, you know, Bellevue, Howard, Alloway, Schwabenon, you can park on the street overnight in summer, just not in winter?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And they don't have a permit needed, you can just park overnight?
Correct. Yep. Just open parking at
So
night.
everybody around us except Pier.
Right.
Pier's like us except weekends, or?
Yeah, except they allow it on weekends.
Mark, was there a reason you wanted to charge a permit fee? Just
You know,
revenue?
Like I said, I think when I brought that up, it was more or less, thinking in terms of budgetary items. I know that Milwaukee does have that. And I listened to Chris's comments about, the citations versus the permits, and that's definitely a feasible thing to talk about, but, I'm not beholden to it. My initial reason for looking at this was for the people that have difficulty parking. That's my main priority. I think, Plan B was to look at a possible permit, fee. Like I said, there are people, in the central city that might not enjoy that, paying another fee. We have enough, I guess. But I think part of it is that, if you get one parking ticket, it's $27.50 or what have you. Even if you had a $30, that would take care of one parking ticket. And I know there are several folks in my district that have had numerous parking tickets over time. So it's not mandatory. I just brought it forward because I thought that it would be another possibility for revenues to be brought in. I know that as a city government, we provide services. We don't have a whole lot of opportunities to bring in revenues. And we're just another opportunity.
So just generally speaking,
if that
you're
went
just-
away, what's that?
Generally speaking, you're just for more taxes then?
Say that into the mic.
Can I lay it on them? No, listen, it's not, I'm not being held to the fire on that one.
Yeah, no, I'm just teasing too.
Yes, thank you.
All right. All right, any further discussion?
Yeah, I think we should, I changed my mind a little bit on, why don't we just do what the surrounding communities are doing, Bellevue, Howard, Alloway, Schwabenon. Allow, except in winter.
I think for me at least, it still doesn't solve, the problem, which is individuals not necessarily having a place to park. Because now
in winter.
they still have the problem in the winter.
Well, maybe you have a permitting in winter. I don't know.
I wouldn't mind seeing a draft ordinance of an even odd scenario. I think another bit of information that would be useful, I think is again, going back, if my memory serves me right, we only do plowing of the streets when it's 2 inches or more. And so like, how many snow events do we have a year where that
Runs anywhere from a low of 6 to a high of 25.
Okay. That's a snowy year.
Right, we've had them.
Yeah.
We're not looking at winter. We're not looking at winter as far as parking. Was that part of it?
So you do even odd just in the summer? What problem are you solving then?
Well, what you were bringing up was
You said you have residents who have a challenge, their driveways are too small. So if you just do even odd in the summer only, how are you fixing that problem for them?
completely, right. Well, like I said, after listening to what the police brought forward in Public Works, it's like anything else. You look at a big situation and you're not gonna get everything you want, like the song says. You can't always get what you want. But you're right. I haven't really thought on that one a whole lot as far as wintertime. Wintertime is a separate entity. And as Alder Weary said, he was looking at some of the other surrounding communities and what they do. you know, if you can correlate it to that and say, you know, it works for them, why can't it work for us?
I guess I disagree, Mark, in the sense that I don't think it's a separate entity. I think if we're gonna give staff a directive here, we gotta make that decision. Is winter in or out?
Well, I wanted to bring it to you. I gave you some of my thoughts. I'm not being held to the fire on this. I would say that I would trust the committee to come up with something. I would. So is that a good thing?
Well, maybe what I'll do, just to expedite this, so I would make a motion, if that's all right with you guys, that the staff come back with a ordinance draft of even odd year-round and an ordinance draft of even odd just during the summers. It seems like we've got two modes of thought here, so if it's easy, Chris, I mean, just
That's.
choose one or the other, yeah.
Gotta start somewhere, I'll second it.
Permit or not, fee or not.
I am not going to make that as part of my motion. If Mark wants to see that, he can talk with Chris and
Okay.
figure out how he wants to make that amendment later if he'd like
Tax
to.
man can put it in.
So you're suggesting let's get this out first and then amend it accordingly?
I'm suggesting I'm generally not in favor of a permit, so I'm not going to include it in my motion.
And you have to start somewhere.
Yep.
That starts.
So that is my motion. Alder Weary seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries 2-1. Item number 7. Consideration possible action request by Department of Public Works to approve amendment number 2 for professional service agreement with Ayers Associates for design contract for Hayden Place and Hillcrest Drive in the amount of $21,082.62. Director Grenier.
And I think what we're looking at here, this is just to finish up the Hillcrest Drive design with Ayers. Number one, there was a change in the contract completion date, which created some inefficiencies for Ayers. There was 2 additional design meetings above and beyond what was in the original scoping hours, and then we had to break the project up into 2 separate projects because we did the resurfacing on Haven Place last year. We're doing, we got Hillcrest in the program at least for next year. So total add was $8,457.62, and staff recommends. What's that? 21. Oh, I'm sorry. Everything all in was $21,082.62. The dollar value isn't of concern. That's below $25,000 or now $50,000 threshold, but we're actually amending the contract, and you guys did approve the contract, so we're looking for approval to amend the contract.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion by Weary, a second by Brunette. Discussion, Alder Brunette.
Yes, I want to thank Director Grenier and Mr. Burnett for bringing this forward and keeping the word. I know we have butt heads on this project from the get-go, but I'm very much appreciative that this is being included. And for the committee's sake, I will say that of the roads in the city, because Hillcrest does service quite a few subdivisions in that far west side, it actually is probably, in my opinion, one of the worst roads in the city and definitely in need of repair. So I just wanted to state that. Thank you.
I'll give you one of the worst, but I can.
It's the worst.
I can tell you that I know there's a couple of them over in
Gotcha.
Alderdorf's district because they're ones that I drive to work every day.
It's one of the worst.
Well, I can tell you that
I'll give you one
a
of
few that are in my neighborhood.
All right,
Oh, okay.
we're gonna throw roads out there.
All right, let's not go there.
All right.
Thank you, though. I know it's difficult when these things come up. I appreciate you including this and moving forward. Thank you.
All
As long
right,
as my sidewalks get inspected first.
any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item number 8, consideration possible action on the review and approval of the 2020 sanitary district rates. Director Grenier.
Preface this real quickly before I turn it over to Mr. Heckenleibel. The short answer is 99% of what goes into these rates was already approved as part of the budget. Again, that's all we're doing is taking the sanitary budget and turning that into a rate. that the ratepayer pays. The exception to that is we needed to wait until December, no, end of November?
Last week Wednesday.
Okay, last week Wednesday, whatever date that was. For Green Bay Metropolitan Sewage District, New Water, to approve their rates because two or three of our line items in the sanitary budget are actually pass-through costs directly from New Water. So once they finalize their rates, we can now finalize ours and bring that forward. So what Matt's gonna do is walk you through the information that we talk about each year as far as the strength parameters. We've got some historical numbers and a graph showing what the rates are, and then our recommendation to approve the rates for sanitary sewage for Green Bay ratepayers for 2020.
I'd love to hear about Geldol nitrogen. Probably.
TKN,
Okay.
for short, TKN. It's one of the strength parameters. Ultimately, like Director Grenier stated, we take our budget, I put it into a 11-page spreadsheet. We take our 5-year rolling average of strengths. We come up with that. This year's 5-year average, for the most part, is lower than it was last year, which is a good thing, in that lowers the rates. And then ultimately, we take into account inflow and infiltration. Unfortunately, with all the wet weather that we've had and our aging infrastructure, we have seen over $2 million worth of excessive flow going to the wastewater treatment plant that we are getting treated as clear water. But unfortunately, that clear water gets charged out at our strength rates. So we get charged that additional fee from New Water. Ultimately, we have to wait, as Director Grenier stated, until New Water passes their rates. For the most part, their rates went down, well, some parameters went down, some went up. This year, the volume charge went down by 3 cents. Again, a positive, considering we're sending excess flow there because of all the wet weather, inflow and infiltration. BOD, bio-oxygen demand, is up by 4 cents. Suspended solids is more or less an even wash. Phosphorus is up by 17 cents. And TKN is up by 5 cents. Running all that through the numbers or through the spreadsheet, we ultimately come up with, we take everything and put it into a volumetric charge. So instead of charging everybody a volume charge, a BOD charge, a suspended solid phosphorus TKN charge, we just roll it into a volumetric charge. Green Bay Met's portion of a person's bill is $3.04 per 100 cubic feet of water used. That is metered from their water meter. The city charge is $2.17 per 100 cubic feet, and the total charge then is $5.21. That $5.21 is a 3.37% increase over last year's rate. The city's portion of the volume charge went up by 1.88%, and New Water's portion went up by 4.47%. So the trend is actually a little down for this year compared to the trend line that we have been going on. New Water actually found some surplus money last year, and they said they were anticipating a large bump in budget this year. Some odd reason, I'm not complaining. Their budget was actually fiscally responsible in my opinion. So we actually have favorable rates this year. So as far as a recommendation, I would request that the committee adopt the 2020 proposed rates that are on the 2 pages provided to you.
Could you repeat that? No. I'm kidding. The whole thing.
Which part? You want the abridged version or the
It
unabridged?
probably was the abridged version.
Unfortunately, it
Looking at
was.
that. Oof. Move to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Alder Weary,
A lot of numbers.
second by Alder Burnett. Any discussion? Seeing all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 9, consideration of possible action on the report of the purchasing assistant. A, request approval to award the purchase of traffic signal equipment from Cisco, $16,035. Neher Electric, $1,125.50. Tapco, $19,218. 41 cents. Viking Electric, $1,447.15. And Wesco, $33,065.28.
The, included in the packet was a summary that was prepared by Becky Mako, the purchasing assistant. You'll notice Mr. Jensen is not here, as he is retired. But similar to what we've done in the past, each of the individual line items and low vendor, or the 6 vendors responding, have been identified. This has gone through both the purchasing department and the electricians within DPW. Low vendors have been identified, and then for each of the apparent, or the responding low vendors, we've grouped together what equipment would be awarded to each, and the summary dollar values have been provided to you as read by Alder Johnson. Staff's recommendation is each of these are responsive low vendors and have successfully bid with us in the past, so recommendation is to award as read.
I read it, looked good. I'd move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Johnson, second by Weary. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item B, request approval to award the purchase of traffic signals to Traffic Control Corp. in the amount of $88,419.
Again, we've got that summarized. What you will see is there were actually 3 vendors responding. The low vendor at $83,820.72 was General Traffic Corp. out of Newbury, New York. However, we've had problems with delivery and quality issues with that vendor in the past, so they were disqualified. And Traffic Control Corp. in Woodridge, Illinois, came in at a low of $88,419. Difference between they and TAPCO, TAPCO was at $89,184, so less than $1,000 on $88,000 worth of equipment. To be honest with you, I think you see some of the issues that we were dealing with that caused us to disqualify the apparent low in their bid. This was definitely a case where somebody lowballed something and we were going to get less than quality materials as they provided in the past. So recommendation would be to award the Traffic Control Corp. at $88,419.
Steve, just a quick question. Just because I think, as long as I can remember, we've always just approved the low bidder. Is there, I mean, when you sort of disqualify a bid, is there any legal ramifications for that? Any-
This is something we have done in the past, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is not the first time. The legal ramifications, as long as we have justification and documentation proving why we did not award to a low. State statute does tell you that there is no guarantee of award to a low bidder, it's to a low responsive
Got it,
bidder.
okay. And you're confident in the documentation that we have?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, good.
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion by Burnett, a second by Weary. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 10, consideration of possible action and authorized payment for the following easement. Baird Creek Interceptor Sewer Easement at Grandview Road, Erie Road Development LLC, parcel 21-11 in the amount of $25,725.
This is also included in your packet. What we have is a sanitary sewer easement that gets us part of the way across the Grandview property. What we are acquiring is the easement to get us the rest of the way along the proposed future Rocky Arbor Trail out to Grandview Road. The sanitary interceptor will then proceed south from Grandview, and that will open up the remainder of that area east of the existing I-43 industrial park. That's the proposed new TIF area that will be able to provide sanitary sewer service to that. Easement that we've been looking for a while. The price was right, so we are asking for approval of that, that payment on the following easement, or on the easement, so we can go ahead and get that sewer constructed in 2020.
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion by Weir, a second by Brunette. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Item number 11, consideration of possible action on application for concrete sidewalk builders licensed by, is it Millis? I can't-
Millis, yes.
Millis Flat Work. My screen's going dark because my battery's running low.
Our recommendation would be conditionally approve upon receipt of upon receipt of positive reference check.
Motion to approve as worded.
Second.
A motion by Weir, a second by Brunette. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. E, informational, director's report on recent activities of the Public Works Department.
Short report, we are out plowing, we are out scraping and working in residential roads. We'll continue to do so until we're back at square one.
I haven't had any complaints yet, so that's gotta be good.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
Good job.
I had one, but,
Last night was
Yeah.
tricky.
Yeah?
Last night we were worried.
yeah. I had one, but Chris gave me a very thorough response via email, so I really do appreciate that. It was something that it helped the constituent understand, so, thank you.
I did have one, but it wasn't my district, so I'm not counting that one. Remember?
All right, entertain a motion.
Well, the last, under item 2, we just want to make a correction there. It looks like the next IMS meeting is tentatively scheduled for January 8th.
Okay, we need to first, though, in the report, entertain a motion, receive and place on file.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Weary, second by Brunette. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 2, the next Improvement Services Committee meeting is scheduled tentatively for January 8th, 2020.
Adjourn. Second.
Motion by Brunette to adjourn, second by Weary. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
All right. Ew.
Mark, if you are